Brian Vanden Brink, he's not in prison right now, but he does go in a day or two a week volunteering to work with inmates at the Maine State Penitentiary. He's one of the preeminent architectural photographers in the state, and you might also see him riding around in his classic 1947 Jeep. Brian, I think Brian says it best in his words here, saying he's interested in photography, in photographing the built environment and its relationship to the landscape. He's fascinated by abandoned architecture or what we leave behind in our development and growth. I love to photograph how and where we live, seeing in our architecture an expression of what we value and what is important to us. I'm attracted to photographing design, whether it is represented by a hot dog stand or I lost my last page. Please join me in welcoming Brian Vanden Brink.
This has been such a cool evening. And this has just really been fun. And I just want to give kudos to the Pachacacha organizers. This has been a great evening. Way to go. All right, let's roll. As an architectural photographer, most of my photographic work is done for architects or publications about architecture and design. My professional world consists of beautiful spaces carefully designed and meticulously prepared for the camera, where life is actively going on. The images that are made communicate a sense of purposeful design, style, life, and vitality. The photographs I make are important marketing tools for my clients and help to establish them in the marketplace. I count myself fortunate to have had a career working with such talented designers and imaginative people. I've been able to travel extensively and have been privileged to go from one beautiful place to another, doing what I love to do, photographing the built environment. It's a life that is meaningful, exciting, and fun. But over the 30-plus years of my career to date, I've also been drawn to shoot an entirely different kind of architecture. These buildings are not new, well-maintained, or filled with life. They're empty, abandoned, and worn out. Life has passed them by, and they are no longer useful or needed. To me, they are mysterious and melancholy, hauntingly beautiful, and in some strange way, even more fascinating than the new buildings I shoot professionally. Photographing abandoned architecture is part of my personal work, and it's a labor of love for me. In 2009, a book of these photographs was published entitled Ruin: Photographs of a Vanishing America. Some of the images I show here tonight are from that book. For the most part, these images were made while traveling to or from an assignment somewhere. I shot them just because they appealed to me, and I wanted in some way to save something that I thought would soon be lost. Photographing these abandoned structures is something that I love to do. I see them as open doors that allow me to pass into another time and place. Since they are no longer in use or occupied, I'm usually there alone or with my assistant, working in peace and quiet. For the most part, no one disturbs us. No one cares what we're doing. Many times we never see another person, but sometimes a bird or animal will be startled and rush away. It's such a departure from my usual work environment where I need to move quickly and prepare furniture or other props to be just right. Styling or propping is such a big part of my usual work, but here no styling is necessary. Everything is just the way it should be. I just have to shoot what's there. No rush, no pressure, just look, feel, think, and shoot. In preparing the images for this book, I began to ask myself why I was so attracted to these structures and what did I see in them. Maybe these buildings fascinate me because in some way they represent all of us. Maybe they're symbols of our own impermanent status here on earth, metaphors for our transient life, and inability to stop the passing of time. Are these buildings reminders of something we're reluctant to acknowledge? A couple of weeks before my dad died, my brothers and I were helping him out of his bed to go to the bathroom. As he struggled down the hall, he turned to us and said quietly, "Take a good look, boys. This is going to be you sooner than you think." He was right. Our lives go by so quickly, and we leave behind the relics of our time here and what we thought was important. Deep down, I know that this world is not my home. I'm just a passing through, as the old gospel song says. When I'm around these buildings, I can't help thinking about the life that went on within their walls and wondering what happened to the folks who lived or worked there. Will someone stand in my house someday and wonder the same things? That might make me a bit uneasy, but helps me understand why I find cracked walls, broken windows, and sagging floors in some ways more beautiful than brand new houses where everything is perfect. I know someday that broken down house is going to resemble me or my loved ones. Deep down inside, I wonder if I'll still be appreciated and valued when I'm no longer productive, have seemingly outlived my usefulness, and cost a lot just to maintain, like these buildings. Jesus told us not to lay up treasures on earth where moth and rust corrupt and thieves break through and steal, but to lay up treasures in heaven. That makes a lot of sense to me when I look at these buildings. They're a confirmation of his wisdom and a reminder to invest my life in things that will last. They help me to remember that I'm going to leave all my possessions behind someday, so don't get too attached to them or work too hard just to get more stuff. They help me to learn to be content with what I have. Being around these buildings helps me to think about my end, which causes me to consider how I live in the present. I see that as a good thing. Thoreau wrote a chapter in his book Walden entitled Where I Lived and What I Lived For. He talked about living deliberately so that he wouldn't come to the end of his life and there discover that he hadn't lived at all. That's how I feel. I see this life as a wonderful gift from God that I want to enjoy vibrantly and make the most of every day. Shooting these abandoned buildings helps me to see my life in context, reminds me to be involved in something bigger than myself, and to participate joyfully in the rhythm of life. Shortly after Ruin came out, Dave Morrison, a friend and poet who lives in Camden, surprised me by writing a poem about the book. He has graciously allowed me to use it as text to go with his permission, and I'm going to close with it tonight. Here it is. Someone imagined this house. Someone stood in the rain or sun, in morning or dusk. Someone imagined trees cleared, the compass points that would bring morning light through a certain window. Someone imagined men and nails and planks and cement, a slow motion magic trick where a house appears in what used to be woods. Someone imagined a family, the planting of gardens, the shouts of play, the visits of relatives. Someone stood alone in the trees and imagined all this. I wonder if they imagined this abandoned ruin the color of a wasp's nest, lost in dusty deed books, home now to nature's homeless. Everyone imagines the beginning, but who imagines the end? Thank you.
I'll say thank you to Brian. I think he's probably worked for most of the architects in the room, but I think it's really quite touching to see another side of his work that he shared with us tonight. So thank you, Brian.